Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Astrology Now with astrologer Babula Clement and myself, Cheryl Gottschall. We are in for another big month. We say this all the time, don't we, Babula? But we are in for another one. And I was thinking about, the full moon in Capricorn coming up, because Capricorn has very little empathy. So I'm thinking there's going to be hard work. It's going to be, you just got to get it done, and we don't care how you feel about it. Just get on with it, So, gosh, Babula, what is going on?
Well, I think I feel might be helpful is to give like a really quick snapshot of the month and kind of list some of the major things, because there's a lot of big things happening, and then we'll come back and really break it down. So there's a big emphasis on planets turning retrograde, like Neptune turns retrograde at the start of the month. Venus very significantly turns retrograde later in the month on the same day that Chiron turns retrograde. And on the same day that Pluto squares the nodes, the north and south nodes of the moon are changing sign this month, which only occurs every 18 to 19 months.
Yeah, so that's one of the most important transits of the year, isn't it?
Yes, that's a key signifier of the whole of 2023. The changing of the nodes. It's not only the changing of the sign of the nodes, which happens every 1.5 years, just so happens that it's square Pluto at the same time. So that's major, plus all these planets turning retrograde in the same month. And there's a lot going on in the sign of Leo as well. So that's a bit of a quick overview to sort of give us the flavor. And it's as always, it's lots of different things happening. There's never just one story. And it always reminds me, that idea that we're multifaceted, multidimensional, complex, many layered. We are as individuals, our lives are, life itself is, it's not a simple straightforward thing with a really simple formula. Well, we probably can in some ways nut things down to a simple formula, but the day-to-day reality is very complex.
I always think of it as like every lunar cycle, we're baking a different cake, and sometimes it rises and sometimes it falls and sometimes it burns.
Yes.
Sometimes it's still not cooked in the middle, so you have all these retrogrades.
Yes. And there's all these different ingredients, and you try a different recipe and so on and so on. Yeah. So there's a lot, and of course, with so many different influences going on all at the same time, as the planets are all moving and interacting with each other, and it's all sacred geometry at work, actually, for all these different archetypal energies and influences. And each person is experiencing them so uniquely according to their own energetic makeup, their karma, their life circumstances, their situation, their background, their history, their soul path. I mean, no one's going to experience any of these energies in the same way. But at certain times, of course, each individual and their chart is going to get hit, triggered, activated by any of these, by one or two or three or all of them, or none particularly. So, we all get different kind of impacts from them.
I think that's why it seems from a distance hard to learn astrology, because there's a lot in it, and then you've got the meanings of the signs, the houses, the aspects, the planets, and then you've got the layers that happen, and then you're trying to synthesize it all. So it's not that easy to put all of that together. You've had years of experience, like yourself.
And then on top of that, you've got the timing. Transits and progressions come in throughout our life at different times, and so different levels and layers of all those various things in the chart are being activated, and thus our life is playing out, and things are happening, and we're evolving. Hopefully we're evolving. That's the name of the game, really, isn't it?
It's in-depth psychology too, and what could you say, disentangling the soul, I guess, or
Yes.
trying to break it down and understand it.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. Even in that way, it's practical, it's soulful,
Mm.
it's cosmic, it's realistic, it's imaginal. There's so many different, and that's why you can go to 3 or 4 astrologers, and I encourage people to see different astrologers, and you're going to always get another flavor and a perspective from different people, because that's just how things are.
Yeah.
That's how life is, and that's a good thing. I think that's a great thing. And I in my experience, like I have clients who've been seeing me for years and years and years. And it's beautiful when they come back again. And others might only see me once or twice, and then they'll go and see someone else. And in that, for them, in that time, that's exactly the right person. So we resonate.
Mm.
When we go and see healers or practitioners or whatever, we resonate with certain people, and certain people have just what we need at certain times.
Yeah. And I think that's why we come in and out of each other's orbs, because of those planetary influences and the transits and all this sort of stuff. And we're drawn to certain people at certain times more than others.
Yes, that's right.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, there we go. I didn't know whether we were going to say all that, but there we go. I think
yeah.
I think that's really, important. I mean, I could talk about that stuff forever.
Yeah.
It's just also interesting to me.
It's like the old watches, isn't it? That you take the back off, or the clocks, and you have a look at all the mechanisms working. Some are small, some are big, and they blend into each other, and they drive each other's cycles, and it's just like that.
Yes,
Mm.
yes. And I think our
Mm.
solar system operates in many ways like that, and it's interacting with our own chart, of course.
Mm.
Yeah, all the cogs in the wheel, and all moving in their own timing, their own magical timing. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Mm. Wow.
And because it's so multi-layered, I've been saying this for years, and I continue to say it. I am never bored by astrology. It's this, how could anyone ever be bored by it? There's just so much going on and continues to go on. It's always so fascinating. And I still often just go, oh my God, would you look at that?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's great.
Oh gosh. So we've got the moon coming up, and what we're going to have Neptune retrograde in Pisces. So
Yes.
we've already got that happening before that moon.
Yes. So the month actually starts the 1st of July. So
Mm.
even now, just in another day or two, that will be the case. Neptune is stationary.
Mm.
So, meaning it appears to have slowed right down in the sky. They don't actually stop and change direction. So it's slowed right down to a standstill, and those slow moving outer planets, that really is the case. Like, it's been slowing down now for probably about 2 weeks. It's pretty much stationary at the stop, parked at the station now.
Mm.
And on the 1st of July, still very, very slow, begins to turn back
Yeah.
at 27 degrees and 41 minutes of Pisces. So Neptune is in a sign for 14 years, since around 2011, moved into Pisces, doesn't live until early 20, through 25, 26 it leaves. So, we're in deep waters with Neptune. And so Neptune's influence is very present right now
Mm.
while it's stationary in its own sign of Pisces. And this is where it does get complex. There's other things going on that tell a very different story, but this Neptune influence, some people will be really feeling it. They might be feeling overwhelmed, a bit disoriented, a bit dreamy, just going, I'm confused. I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm. But it affects our intuition too, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Mm.
We can be feeling like a bit frustrated, because we might want more time to just meditate or develop
Yeah.
spiritually or do something artistic, and life's not giving us the opportunity, so it can get really frustrating.
Yeah, and I have to say on that point that even just leading up to this, which is, we're recording this on the 30th of June, just so people are aware, because they might have got a bit confused in the beginning.
Yeah.
But myself in the last couple of days, I've just felt like I don't want anything to do with anything practical, worldly. I just want to just sit quietly and sort of just let the world go by. I want to be in my own space and be a
Yes.
bit dreamy, a bit detached, dissociated maybe, but just feeling more connected, sitting and watching the trees, feeling that connectedness with that oneness with nature, all that sort of thing. That's what I've been feeling, and coming down to that point where it goes retrograde. I'm not going to go through that again, of course, because it's going to go back over it. And I
Yeah.
might find it a little bit hard to actually get into work, into work mode.
Yes. Well, that's right. And that's where the feeling of a bit of frustration can arise sometimes, because there's that deep pull to go into that oceanic state and to have enough space to feel very tuned in, intuitively tuned in, connected spiritually, psychically. And that needs a bit of space when we're in a constant state of being disrupted, interrupted. Like that's what I've been feeling in relation to what you're saying. I've been become very aware of my desire to just have empty space around me so I can just be in my own natural organic flow and let my mind my mind's a bit like that. It just wants space to just expand right out. And when there's all these things that it gets really a bit irritating after.
Yes, it's damned annoying, I have to tell you.
It is. Like, life, go away, leave me alone.
Yes.
I just a few days to just be in this other realm,
Yes.
But
of course, then comes the full moon in Capricorn.
That's right.
Completely opposite.
That's right. So that's where I think it's always a dance, and if we can at least make some space for that Neptunian influence and acknowledge that, and then at the same time kind of have some space for the other energies that are moving as well. It's complex, it's complicated.
Yeah, you're trying to balance it all.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the arts of living, isn't it? And this is a Neptune message to go with the flow.
Yes.
That's Neptune's one of his primary messages, to let go and go with the flow and just go, okay, right now I can't have exactly what I want. This is what's happening. And that's where a lot of Neptune's gifts come through, to just, relax and stop fighting against the current. Yeah. Tall ask for we humans very often. It's a big ask.
Well, that current's got me wanting to just float out the door and go op shopping or something like that, and just playing hooky, instead of
That's
working.
Right. Or lie in a hammock under a tree or something.
Yeah, it's just,
I know.
just floating along.
I know. So yes, on the 3rd of July, I'll give the exact time for those who are interested, 9:38 p.m. So on the evening, Monday evening, Eastern States of Australia, we have the full moon. If we have a clear sky, it will look gorgeous, because it is what we call a super moon, which simply means it's closer to the Earth. So it looks larger. It'll be very bright if we have clear skies. And it's, the gravitational pull is stronger, so the effect is stronger. So everything is heightened, illuminated, how we love it. We go outside at night under those nights. It's just, everything's radiant and shining. At 11 degrees of Capricorn. So we're in the Cancerian month. All the Cancerians are having their birthdays. All the nurturers and caregivers are celebrating birthdays with lots of cake, I assume. Hopefully someone else has made it for you. So now we're at the full moon stage of this current cycle. And so we get to talk sign polarities now. So Cancer is all about that soft, caring, very feminine principle of nurturing and care and intimate. These two signs have got a lot to do with security.
Yes.
And they also have a strong inclination towards the past. Cancer security comes from an emotional sense of bonding and belonging and connection. It's an emotional thing. It's a felt thing, which we often feel in family, whether that's blood family, and in some cases that is, or it might be part of your blood family, and maybe not this part, but maybe this part you feel that deep bond, a sense of security and connection, which is very nourishing. It can also be soul family, of course, people that maybe we feel deeply bonded with and connected with in a way that's different to our blood family. So, Cancer, home, nurturing, that sense of home, of belonging, a real soul connection is very Cancer, and it's a water sign, so it's a felt, emotional, psychic connection.
Yeah.
Capricorn, on the other hand, security comes from hard work, getting your act together. I nearly swore then, but I refrained. Getting your act together, doing the work, being disciplined, getting a result, rolling up your sleeves, just getting on with the job.
Yep.
And as you said, it can be quite hard-nosed about that. It's like, no, don't make any other demands on me. I'm totally focused on this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it makes us want to work even harder.
Yes. Just to get the thing done.
Yeah. And to get what we want too.
Yes.
I think.
That's right. Yeah. The goal, the sense of mission and purpose, it's not the mountain goat climbing that rocky mountain for no reason. Yeah. And that Capricorn part of us has that capacity to just keep going. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. That's Capricorn.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of those, those goats that climb the cliffs and they're vertical cliffs. And I'm thinking, well, why are they doing that? Because there's some food on the top of that cliff.
That's right.
Well, they want to get from here to there. It's not about climbing the cliff at all. Yeah.
And they're sure-footed and they're built for those tough conditions, as every Capricorn knows.
Yeah, very tough. They're tough people too.
Tough, strong, absolutely. There's a lot of grit there. Now, to Cancer, like if we as I do sometimes, put the zodiac circle on the floor and people sit in it or stand in it, sitting in the Cancerian zone and looking across a Capricorn, it looks so harsh and cold because Cancer's all soft and warm and cuddly and cozy, right? And if we sit in Capricorn and look across a Cancer, to Capricorn's eyes, Cancer looks all soft and mushy and weak and a bit helpless. They want to sort of slap it around and say, for God's sake, grow up, and get on with it.
Yeah.
So these polarities operate inside of us too, if we have Cancer Capricorn story in our own chart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Capricorn's like the tough parent. Cancer is the soft, nurturing, caring. I'll go on, have another piece of cake. And Capricorn saying, no, you'll put on weight, or we can't afford it.
Yeah, it's that disciplinarian versus the nurturer, isn't it?
That's right. So that's the polarity that this full moon is going to highlight. So themes of security, what does it mean to us? Is it having a secure job and those sorts of things, or is it having a loving, nurturing, personal home environment? And emotional connections with people. So now this full moon at 11 degrees of Cancer Capricorn, so people can look in their chart to see what houses that's playing out in, what's those areas of life are going to be illuminated by the light of the sun and the full moon. And maybe you've got planets there. I just happen to have an opposition right on that full moon in Cancer and Capricorn. So that'll be interesting. And the moon is making quite a beautiful, gorgeous trine actually to Jupiter in Taurus, from earthy Capricorn to very earthy Taurus to Jupiter, planet of abundance. So I would suggest one way during this Cancerian sun cycle to make good use of that Capricorn full moon is to be very grounded, to deal with practical issues. About a week or so ago, when the moon was in Virgo, the other earth sign, I finally got my mind in a space and said, right, I have to do my accounts, which is all just like filling in data and cross-checking invoices and bank accounts and all that tedious stuff, which is like the last, I'm just not wired up that way. That's like, I can do it, but I do it when I just go, I really have to do that.
Yes.
And because the moon was in Virgo and it kind of gave me the energetic support. And once I got into it, I actually don't mind.
Yes.
It was starting it that I was having a problem with.
Yeah.
Lots of other things I'd rather be doing.
Oh gosh.
So that full moon trine Jupiter in Taurus is very, very supportive for anything grounded, practical, getting organized, dealing with, real tangible things. It can be as basic as just giving your house a good clean,
Mm-hmm.
doing work in the garden, getting things sorted out in your business. Be very, very helpful. And the Jupiter part of that can be very inspiring and uplifting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So
I think I was
that's
also
nice.
I was also reading that Mercury's opposite as well, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mercury is conjunct the sun in Cancer, 14 of Cancer, and opposite that full moon.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, how do we communicate with Mercury in Cancer? How do people with Mercury in Cancer communicate? They communicate in a very personal way with a lot of affection. And I have an ear for these things, and I notice they'll use words like honey and darling and sweetie a lot.
Mm.
Affectionate. They express and communicate in a very affectionate way, and that might even be, put an arm around you, or come in, I've just put the kettle on, come in and sit down, have a cup of tea, and let's have a nice chat,
Yes.
talk about personal things.
Yes.
I'm being a little trite, but it's really like that.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is like that. And you start talking. Oh, I've had a few conversations lately talking about food, because Mercury's in Capricorn now for a couple of weeks.
Mm.
So we think about those things: food and care and nurture and family,
Gardens,
gardens. We
growing your veggies.
going, yeah, and being mother,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
I have a possum that for years, I've only been in this house for 18 months, but I know the woman who used to live here. And this possum is actually just over there behind the blinds.
Mm.
It's a cozy spot. Every winter when she has a new baby, she spends her day. It's a very safe space. She's away from danger. So I've got this mother looking after her baby, and at night she goes off with the baby, looking for food and
Mm.
do. So that sort of reminds me of that Cancerian mothering. And,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love to show the kids, there she is. And I digress, but it's that sense that we start to notice these things around us a lot more,
Mm.
while the sun and Mercury are in Cancer. I want to talk about those things.
Mm. Mm.
Um, okay, so the full moon, now on the full moon, also Venus, very importantly, is in Leo now. And that's a big story coming up over the next few months. We'll talk a lot more about that in the coming sessions. But Venus during this full moon is at 22 of Leo, conjunct Mars at 25 of Leo, conjunct the Black Moon Lilith at 19 of Leo.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. So here they are. You can see this is how I play with the chart. But there they are, the Black Moon Lilith, the
Mm.
feminine, Venus, the feminine, Mars, the masculine, all sitting very close together and making this big square to Uranus in Taurus. So
Mm.
there's this Leo energy, which is very highlighted now.
Mm.
And in the coming months with Venus, as she goes through her very important retrograde Venus star point cycle, which we will come to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's interesting with the square to Uranus in Taurus. So we've got that grounded energy of Taurus, but all of the changes and disruption and new energy and new consciousness coming through Taurus with finances, with issues around security,
Mm.
land, food. We've talked about these things before.
Yeah.
And Leo, of course, is about the individual and me, myself, and I,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And um, our own inner light and how we shine our own truth and stand in our own truth and identity and a sense of who we are.
Mm.
It's also a sign of high drama.
Mm.
We see that all the time. And And that can be a beautiful thing. You know, it adds sort of color. Like if a Leo tells you a story, it's going to be really interesting because they're going to embellish, they're going to dramatize, they're going to perform it almost for you.
Mm.
Great in film, on the stage, and so on. So you know, I love the energy of Leo, and I have a lot of it around me in my life, and a dose of it in myself. Um, but Leo run amok, of course, is an ego out of control.
Yes, very much so.
So that's another part of it.
Yeah.
But that's square to Uranus. There's going to be to Venus, which is, we're going to have 3 of those in the coming couple of months, is going to cause a lot of change and disruption and new consciousness in relationship. You know, there will be breakdowns, separations, new relationship dynamics coming in for people. Can be very passionate, can be quite dramatic, a little bit shocking, a bit unexpected, exciting, stimulating. That can show up in people's creative expression too, you know, wanting to explore new forms, you know, new revolutionary forms, break the rules, break out of our mold, try something new art forms.
Yeah.
You know, experiment.
Yeah.
Express new sides of ourselves that we might have, because Leo is very much, to me, one of the main things it's about. We have to show up, we have to show ourselves and show who we are,
Yeah.
not hide.
Yes, no hiding the light under the bushel, whatever they
Exactly.
say.
Exactly.
Yeah. So sorry, when does Venus go into Leo?
Well, she's been in Leo now for a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay, right.
But she's going to be in Leo all the way through to October the 9th. So she's going to be in Leo now for 4 months instead of just scooting through in 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay. And it retrogrades somewhere in there too, doesn't it?
And I've got the date. She's going to retrograde on July the 23rd, which I'll talk more about towards the end, on the same day that Chiron turn retrogrades and Pluto exactly squares the nodes. So her retrograde is going to be a big story, and she'll be retrograde through to September the 4th. So it's about 6 weeks.
Okay.
It's going to be a really strong one.
Yeah, right.
And I've got a workshop that's brewing all about that.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's a really fascinating story. So yeah, Leo is really important. And yeah, as I said, we'll talk a lot more in the coming times. Now on July the 10th, Mars, who's been in Leo for a good month now, is going to leave Leo and go into Virgo.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. So, you know, Mars in Leo is very dynamic and very creative in a very dynamic way, you know, leadership, really stepping up. It can really inflame our passion and frustration and anger and so on. There's a lot of fire energy there, quite dramatic. When Mars goes into Virgo, and people with Mars in Virgo will know this, where he'll be for about 6 weeks, time to roll up the sleeves and just get to work. People with Mars in Virgo are workers and can even be workaholics, you know, can have a tendency towards, you know, a bit of OCD, workaholism, don't know how to stop, because Mars is a very high energy planet, has a lot of drive and push.
Yeah, right. And I guess it sort of get us to focus more on perfectionism too.
Yes.
And details.
Yes. Details, work, health. Great time to not put off exercise, changing diet, cleaning up the diet, like actually doing it instead of thinking about it.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There could be, for some people, inflammation in the body that really flares up, perhaps in the digestive system, the gut particularly. But, you know, inflammation and things that end in itis that can force us, if you like, to actually take our health in hand and just, I can't put this off any longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess it's a good time to look at sorting out anything in our lives that's a bit messy, because
Yep.
Virgo wants to get all those details sorted and
Yep.
orderly, etc. What about in regard to relationships? That's
In,
not really, is it really a Virgo thing?
well, it can be. It can be like if someone's got Virgo in their seventh house of relationship,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Venus in Virgo and Mars comes along, so yeah, it can. It's not, we don't think of Virgo normally as a relational sign.
No.
In fact, Virgo is virgin,
Yeah.
which doesn't mean Virgos are actually technically virgins. Of course it doesn't.
Mm.
But Virgo has a quality about it that's quite self-contained
Mm.
and very often doesn't need to be in relationship.
Mm.
It's not often a priority.
But it does like to serve, doesn't it?
Service, exactly.
Yes, I like to be of service. Yeah.
So a lot of healers,
Mm.
people who work in all kinds of service industry, trades people who have a lot of, wonderful, amazing skills. For some people, it could be a time when they decide to study a new skill or a new course of healing if they're working in the healing realms.
Yeah. So would you say that Virgo is more of a lone wolf type?
Sometimes it can be. Like one of the archetypes for Virgo, like on a more spiritual level, it's got an energy around it to do with the nun, the priestess, the devotee, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Right. The temple, it has that kind of the sacredness of life. And so for some people with Virgo strong, they can put a lot of their energy and devotion and desire to serve in that direction and less on relationship. Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Virgo, as we know, has a reputation for just being nitpicky and critical.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to this sign. There is so much more to it.
Yeah.
That's one kind of outer manifestation of it for sure. So yeah, Mars in Virgo can make us all a bit extra nitpicky and critical and
Fussy.
Fussy. And like I want things, do it my way or take the highway sort of thing.
Yeah. I find that there's quite people I know who are like that, quite fussy about things.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's right. Very particular. You have to stack the dish. I can get a little bit like that, Virgo South Node. Stack the dishwasher this way because it just works better.
Yeah.
And you can get more in, because it's a very analytical sign and very practical in its analysis.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Oh, well, but it's a good, utilizing the positive things about it. It's basically time to, get stuff done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that'll be for a period of time. On July the 11th, just after Mars leaves Leo, Mercury will move into Leo. Right. And move through very quickly in about 2.5 weeks. Mercury's moving really fast at the moment. It changes speed a bit because it goes through these three slow retrograde motions through the year. So there are periods when he's moving really swiftly. So he's pretty much scooting through Leo. And on July the 12th, the sun in Cancer will make a square to Chiron at 19 degrees of Aries. So when we've got something going on in Cancer square to something happening in Aries, Aries is that kind of impatient, fiery impulse to act. And Cancer, although it's a cardinal sign, is a very different focus. And of course, Chiron in Aries is about the wounding issues associated with Aries, the wounded masculine.
Mm.
And in the physical body, that could manifest as actual injuries, bleeding,
Mm.
cuts, wounds, injuries to the head, that kind of thing.
Mm. It's also about our identity too, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And our
Yeah.
autonomy and
Yeah.
independence.
Mm. Mm.
And Cancer, and I'm going to say something now that Cancerians won't like, but I have a moon in Cancer, so I'm allowed. Cancer can be quite clingy and needy
Mm.
emotionally
Mm-hmm.
if it hasn't learned to really, really honor and take care of their own needs and not expect others to do that for them. It can be like really like, give me what I need, give me what I need.
Yes.
And Aries just like, go away, go away, go away. I'm busy. I've got other things to do.
Bugger off.
Bugger off. So yeah, I'm being very simplistic here, but you get the picture.
Yeah.
Because really, Cancer is about, well, what are my needs?
Yeah.
And
Mm.
Aries doesn't really have time for that.
Mm.
Isn't really that interested.
Mm.
So that could be interesting.
Cancer's looking around for a Virgo to serve them.
Oh, what a great idea. Well, see, that's a combination that can work because those two signs are in what we call a sextile. They're quite harmonious together.
Mm.
Mm. Yes, if you're looking for a servant, find a Cancerian with a Virgo moon. They'll just take care of you and take care of everything.
Oh gosh.
That's so funny.
Oh.
But that could be just in general for some people, that day or two or three around that day when the sun square Chiron might be a little bit emotionally wounding, or they might be feeling just emotionally not okay or a bit under the weather, even physically.
Mm.
There can be issues coming up around emotional, and it can even operate in the one person. On the one hand, I'd really just like to stay home and have a couple of days of self-nurture.
Mm.
On the other hand, this Aries energy is pushing me to dynamically do something.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how the squares play out. So is there a way I can resolve that and get them working together in some way,
Mm.
or make space for both?
Mm. Mm.
Um, Now, on July the 18th, is the new moon will complete this current Gemini, because we're in the actual Gemini cycle, because the Gemini new moon was at 26 or something. 26 of Gemini. So we're actually still technically in the Gemini cycle, even though there's no planets in Gemini at the moment.
Mm.
Um, so this Gemini a lunar cycle will complete on July the 18th, and the new moon will occur at 24 degrees 56 minutes of Cancer.
Right.
And we'll talk more fully about this next time. So that new moon will be opposite Pluto.
Mm. Mm.
But on the same day, the North Node, I did want to talk a little bit about this.
Yeah.
The North and South Node leave Taurus and Scorpio, which has been very intense for the last 18, 19 months, and move into the Aries Libra axis.
Mm.
So the North Node will actually, the nodes move backwards through the signs. So the North Node is actually sitting now and right up until that new moon on the 18th of July at 0 degrees of Taurus. And when it moves into Aries, it moves to 29 degrees of Aries and will move backwards through the sign of Aries. So that crossing over point, that week, will be particularly strong. We move from the grounded energies of Taurus to the fiery impulse and the sense of urgency that Aries has.
Mm.
And that, and over the years, if I've been paying attention to these things and tuning into what I'm experiencing in my own energetic field, but also in my immediate life around me during that day, often, I experience the shift. I can feel it changing.
Mm. Mm.
So, Taurus is slow and steady, grounded, pragmatic. Aries is fire. Let's go. Let's move.
Mm.
Right. Um, and that's occurring on the new moon, which is always a moment of the birth of a new cycle too. And Aries is also about the birth of the new.
So for those people who aren't as astrologically informed,
Yes, yes, please ask me those questions.
yes, let's talk about a little bit. We've got a bit of time about the North and South Node,
Right.
what they represent, and how our life sort of swings like a pendulum between the two. So,
Yeah, exactly. So for astrologers, the North and South nodes are very, very important. And in our birth chart, I'll just touch on the birth chart issue briefly. In our birth chart, they tell a really important, profound soul story about our soul's journey and pathway over many incarnations and the path we are on and how we are hopefully evolving and growing and developing. And the evolving and the developing is indicated by the placement of the North Node. It's the North Node of the moon, which is a sort of a technical thing to do with the orbit of the moon as the moon's orbiting around the Earth, as the Earth is orbiting around the sun, and they cross over this ecliptic pathway.
so it's not a thing; it's a location.
Yes, it's a location in space. It's not an object in the sky,
Mm.
but it is connected to the moon.
Mm.
And it's not the moon phases, that's something else.
Mm.
And it has a lot to do with our karma and our dharma and our path and our purpose and our evolution. And so the North Node is that evolutionary point that's directing us forward. And let's say somebody has a North Node in their birth chart in the sign of Aries. And so it's in that sign for 18 to 19 months. Then their South Node's in Libra. The South Node is, in very simplistic terms, the karmic past, deeply ingrained. And in my experience, these patterns are deeply ingrained. Patterns of experience and behavior and reactions and responses to life that we've developed and experienced over many, many lifetimes. So when the South Node is in the sign of Libra for an individual, or as we will experience in the coming 19 months for humanity, the ingrained karmic pattern of Libra is to keep the peace, to always look for the most peaceful, negotiated way out of a dilemma. Now, that's a beautiful thing. But when it's a stuck pattern, it becomes, I'll keep the peace at any price. Just walk all over me.
Yes.
I don't want to upset the boat. I don't want to upset you. I certainly don't want to make you angry. And there's often a lot of fear of anger and aggression and things like that. But it's also a sign that's very about relationship and people. You know, I'm all about people. I'm all about relationship. I invest all my energy into my relationships and I haven't got a clue who I am as an individual.
Yeah.
Right. That's the karmic South Node pattern of a South Node in the sign of Libra.
Mm.
The Aries North Node for that individual and for humanity moving forward now is about, it's actually okay to get angry. It's time to feel the fire. It's time to feel that burn and that impatience and that warrior spirit that's all about myself, my individuation, my individuality, my autonomy, my independence. And it's not to negate and neglect relationship. It's to pull ourselves out of, I'll do anything to please you behavioral patterns to, you know what, that's not okay for me anymore. I'm not having that anymore. And we might need to even feel like we have to kind of fight our way out of that pattern because those patterns are very deep and we fall back into them again. We've all got a South Node somewhere. Mine's in Virgo and I know it well. And we fall back into those patterns again and again and again. It's our like knee-jerk, what's the word? Our default mode of operation. Right?
Mm.
And it takes a lifetime to have the willingness and the courage to evolve and develop those themes and energies of the North Node. And life just keeps throwing that issue in our face again and again and again. They'll show up as people. Like a Libra and South Node person will often find Aries people quite distasteful, vulgar, rash, selfish, crude, aggressive,
Mm.
right? But they need some of that.
Yes, yeah.
And to look for the positive qualities of that North Node sign, but kind of react about it, like I'm a bit judgmental about it.
I'm thinking about this because with the Libra South Node, like you said, it's about not wanting to upset other people, keeping the calm waters, or settling ruffled waters and stepping in for other people too. But if we do that too much, then we're allowing others to lord it over us.
Exactly.
And we can become doormats. And
That's
I'm thinking about that in relation to the North Node in Aries, where it's about, well, what do I want, and what am I not happy with? What am I upset about? What I want to get angry about this. So and I'm thinking about in the background, we've got Pluto has gone retrograde into Capricorn, yes, which is a return to some of what we've had over the last few years in the world about governments lording it over us and telling us what to do. So I think that's a really interesting combination, isn't it?
very powerful. It's, as we said earlier, this is a key theme of 2023 because of these nodes changing sign and squaring Pluto at the same time. The fact that Pluto is squaring this nodal shift is major. I mean, Pluto's been in a square alignment with the nodes for a couple of months anyway, as it's been, they've been moving back to the start of Taurus. But it's really peaking now over this coming month. And it is a crossroads moment. Literally, it's choice time, decision time. Some people are going to be making, and remember I said Uranus, importantly, will be making 3 squares to Venus in Leo, right? So Venus is a ruler of Libra. So this theme around relationship dynamics is going to be very strong for us individually and in the collective. And that issue around, keeping the peace, or do I speak up and am I ready and willing to even go into battle if that's what's required? Claim my right to actually exist.
Yes. Yeah.
As an autonomous individual, I can still be in relationship, but not at the expense of my individuality and myself. So it's not like we'll have to throw relationships out.
No.
It's how to do it very differently, how to find that perfect balance between cooperation, which is the beautiful gift of Libra.
Yes.
And at the same time being true to myself and who I am. And that's Venus in Leo as well, as she makes these squares. So I think relationships are going to go through quite a lot, which is a good thing. It can be a really healthy thing, to free ourselves and liberate ourselves from some of these automatic patterns.
Yes. And I think, establishing, finding the middle ground in there and establishing our space in a healthy way, I guess a boundary in a healthy way.
Yes.
About what we want and what our rules, but in a way that we can negotiate with others, perhaps.
That's right. And to honor the other person's right to autonomy in the relationship as well. How do 2 autonomous individuals find those places where they truly meet and cooperate and work together, and then they maybe separate and do their thing and they come back together? So all that that's a lot of work.
Well, I'm just going to say now how that on earth that's going to play out in with Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, I have no idea, because I see no hints of finding mutual ground at
That's
all
right.
in regard to, government management of society.
That's
There's
right.
just no give and take there. There's no middle ground.
That's right.
It's very Aries. It's about me and what I want to do versus who cares what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I actually think this can be a trigger because we do have 2023 and 2024, the rest of this period of this year and next year, of Pluto still completing his story in Capricorn while the nodes are doing their thing over exactly the same time period in Libra and Aries. And I think there's going to be flashpoints, particularly with the square to Pluto, really powerful flashpoints of conflict, possibly of war. We know that's on the cards. And Libra's also to do with the law and justice and legal issues. Will there be big, well, there already are, but I think there's likely to be more huge battles being played out in courts, not necessarily on the ground with tanks and bombs and things. I possibly that too. It's certainly in the courts because Libra is very much about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And Libra can be quite indecisive too. It can be a fence sitter. So it might be a time where things happen that will get people off the fence.
Yes, and take a stand and make a stand.
Yeah, I think so.
That which is, and see, Aries is about courage. It's true at its very best. It truly is the divine warrior, Archangel Michael energy. And are we going to be able to find that sort of light in us and really, come up in that way, in a really in a way that's very honorable and very true and very clear.
Yeah.
And just not take no shit sort of thing.
I like it.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, it's and then on July the 23rd, and we'll come back to this next time, Venus turns retrograde. So much to say about that. Chiron turns retrograde on the same day, both in fire signs. And Pluto makes the exact square to the nodes. I mean, it's square the nodes now, but it will be exact. That's going to be an extraordinary time.
Wow.
Yes. So, and in the end, it's literally just we show up moment to moment, and trust our gut and our heart and and our inner guidance system, and
yeah,
pay attention to what's going on around us and so on.
Watch it all play out. My goodness. Well, I thought we were over this sort of not over it, but had moved through this phase of a lot going on. But we are not. We have not, and we will not. I think there's going to be a lot going on over the next few years, particularly. Yeah.
There sure is. There sure is. I mean, as many people continuously say, what a time to be alive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's extraordinary.
And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
No. I mean, as challenging as it gets some days, I think, oh, can I go now? Seriously, I kind of also want to stick around to see how all this unfolds over the coming years and even decades, depending on how long I still have in this bodysuit here. That's right.
What was that wonderful meme you posted on your page yesterday on Facebook? It was something about the universe throwing it back at you. I can't remember what that was.
Yes.
So good.
Yes, I threw in the towel.
Yes.
Universe and was it the creator just threw it right back at me, and I laughed. I always like to share things that make me raw. I think I need to spread the joy because I could relate to it. So there's times when you just want to go, oh, enough.
But there's no escape. You're here for the.
There isn't.
You're here for the long
for the whole journey, for the
whole thing.
We signed on the dotted line and said, yeah, okay. But we came in with our own personal roadmap and
Yeah.
blueprint. We
Which
did.
is our chart. Wonderful.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, well, thank you, Babula. I'm looking forward to our next recording with the next lunar cycle too. I know there's going to be a lot in that, but
yeah, the next exciting installment.
Yeah, the next
It's
episode.
like that. It's a bit like a soap opera serial, isn't it? Every 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's amazing, really. And that's why I find astrology so useful to help me understand what's going on and when something's happening and when, for God's sake, it'll be over. We move on to something else. Oh, well, thank you so much for all that information. I know that our viewers and listeners would have really enjoyed that, as much as I did. And if anyone, when you viewers, if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to like it, subscribe if you want to make sure you get the next episode when it's uploaded. And yeah, feel free to leave your comments, and if you want to escape, but
yeah, tell us what you're experiencing, because it's I post quite often on Facebook, and I always appreciate people's comments because it shows us that we're not in this alone. Everyone's we're all going through this together in our own particular way, and it's very confirming for people. People feel that sense of support energetically, when other people are experiencing this too.
That's true. That's very true. So yes, if you want to leave a comment, please do. We would appreciate it. So until next time, until the next lunar cycle, we say goodbye, au revoir, adios, and we'll see you again.
See you later.
Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.